I am a 34-year-old woman, and I have been married to my husband for just over 2 years. He hails from a distinguished family, the kind that effortlessly incorporates terms like legacy and pedigree into everyday dialogue. They reside in an entirely distinct realm, complete with exclusive country club memberships, prestigious private schools, and luxurious summer homes by the lake. My background differs significantly from that. I was raised in a working-class neighborhood where practical skills were essential, such as repairing a tire and making the most of leftovers for future meals. At 15, I made an unwise decision and shoplifted a minor item from a convenience store. I faced consequences, acquired a juvenile record, and dedicated the following decade to ensuring that single moment did not dictate my future. I organized my path, completed high school with commendable grades, obtained a degree in computer science, advanced in the tech industry, embraced opportunities, and ultimately established my own company. After years of effort, the business has finally achieved significant success. Currently, I manage a team of exceptional individuals and contribute to the development of products that create significant change. One would assume that such circumstances would allow anyone to move beyond a youthful error, particularly given that I have always been transparent about it. My husband was aware of it prior to our serious dating phase. He consistently approached it with a sense of calm and professionalism. His family, conversely, approaches it as a shared inside joke that they all enjoy at my expense. The initial occurrence was understated. A few months prior to the wedding, we attended a family dinner. His father lifted a glass and made a remark about securing valuables, accompanied by a laugh that seemed somewhat insincere. The room emitted an awkward chuckle, and I chose to overlook it. I thought perhaps it was an isolated incident. However, his mother began referring to me as the comeback kid at every event, consistently wearing a subtle smile, consistently delivered with a hint of sarcasm that unmistakably indicated she wasn't offering a compliment. I made an effort to integrate. I provided assistance where possible, secured a job referral for his brother at a startup within my network, and developed a website for his sister's custom candle business at no cost. Nothing about it altered the situation. The humor continued to flow. During a neighborhood barbecue organized by a friend, his brother confidently passed me a plastic fork with a wink, remarking, "Just in case anything goes missing." Laughter erupted, yet I noticed the glances from some attendees, suggesting that the jest held a kernel of truth. That evening, I requested my husband to share his thoughts. He expressed that he wasn't fond of the jokes as well, yet he felt caught in a dilemma between his loyalty to them and his responsibility to safeguard my feelings. I wished to place my trust in him. However, I later discovered that they had mentioned my juvenile record during his bachelor party. They recounted tales of how he mastered the untamed and salvaged a seemingly hopeless situation. I was not present, but a colleague of his took the time to share all the details with me. Their laughter and the manner in which they conveyed that I should feel fortunate to be included among them were quite striking. At that moment, I ceased to expect any change in their behavior. I chose not to confront them. I did not raise my voice. I have recently begun to focus on this matter. I commenced my efforts, not to instigate conflict, but to ensure my own safety. I conducted a search of public records. I engaged a background researcher with whom I had a prior arrangement. I conducted some discreet calls. What I discovered left me in awe. His uncle possessed a sealed case concerning a past incident of drunk driving and a concealed offense from years prior. His father was implicated in a tax investigation that disappeared before it could be reported. His cousin was expelled from college due to academic fraud, yet the family communicated that she departed to pursue her passions. I refrained from making any comments. I organized all items into a folder and secured it properly. My husband is not yet aware of it. I was reluctant to involve him unless absolutely necessary, yet I refused to remain passive while they exploited my past for entertainment. Subsequently, we hosted the baby shower for our first child. We organized it at our residence, aiming for a straightforward approach. My parents were present, accompanied by close friends. His family arrived promptly, bringing substantial gifts and broad smiles. His father rose to deliver a toast. I anticipated that he might maintain a level of respect this time. He remarked that it is remarkable what an individual can achieve following their time in juvenile hall. Everyone chuckled as if it were merely another amusing remark. However, on this occasion, my parents were present, along with my colleagues and our friends. At that moment, I realized it was imperative to take action. Not to seek retribution, not to instigate conflict, but to establish a limit that must not be breached again. I had remained silent for an extended period, exerting considerable effort to maintain a cordial demeanor. I was not the typical 15-year-old that people often made jokes about. I had put in the effort for everything I possessed, and I was determined not to allow anyone, particularly those nearest to my husband, to continue to pull that one moment around like a tether. The baby shower took place at our newly acquired residence. We had recently relocated, and I aimed for everything to be flawless. I arranged for the backyard to be tidied, added additional seating, and engaged a local bakery to provide the desserts. My husband managed the invitations and decor, ensuring that both sides of the family were included. His family arrived 20 minutes ahead of schedule. His parents delivered an impressive stack of wrapped boxes. His brother entered with a bespoke bassinet accompanied by a handwritten note, while his sister presented an elegantly crafted 3-tiered diaper cake that mirrored its design, deserving of a feature in a publication. At first glance, everything appeared to be quite generous. However, it soon became evident that the old patterns re-emerged. His father entered the room, surveyed the surroundings, and remarked in a voice that carried to all present, "It's impressive what one can achieve after juvenile hall." The delivery had a light-hearted tone, yet the exchanged glances among several guests revealed their true thoughts quite clearly. My husband has not provided a response. He offered a faint smile and proceeded to pour the drinks. Later that evening, when we found ourselves alone, he expressed his apologies for the remark. He noted that his father tends to react in that manner and referenced his blood pressure, explaining that the stress from confrontation could potentially exacerbate the situation. He had previously justified it as humor on more than one occasion. I chose not to engage in a dispute. I acknowledged with a nod and returned to the gathering. During a tour of the house for some guests, I observed his sister moving deliberately through my home office. I dedicated time to arranging the space, featuring several framed awards, my company's logo elegantly etched on a glass plaque, and photographs from our launch event. She positioned herself by the desk, elevating her phone. I inquired if she required any assistance. She mentioned that she was simply appreciating the arrangement. I have decided to move on. That evening, once all the guests had departed and we were tidying up, I glanced at my phone. A colleague sent me a screenshot via message. His sister shared a photo taken in my office. The caption stated, "From thief to CEO, a journey uniquely American." No tags, no names. It was unnecessary. Those familiar with our narrative would undoubtedly recognize the subject matter. I presented it to my husband. He advised me to take a breath, mentioned that his sister had no ill intentions, and brought up his mother's high blood pressure along with his father's struggles with sleep. I informed him that I would no longer seek permission. This was not merely a jest. It was a demeaning experience masked as light-hearted family conversation. If they chose to continue tarnishing my reputation, I would respond in kind. Not with falsehoods, but with the same transparency they often direct towards me. A few days later, we received an invitation to a brunch at his parents' residence. We arrived with the baby adorned in a charming blue onesie complemented by matching booties. All individuals convened in the garden area. His mother presented me with a plate, and while gently speaking to the baby, remarked, "I hope he doesn't inherit those sticky fingers." A subsequent wave of laughter ensued. I did not find it amusing. I stood, carefully set my plate down, and inquired if we were truly going to continue with this. I surveyed the table and remarked that if we were to engage in humor regarding family history, it might be prudent to encompass all aspects. I referenced the previous tax concerns involving his father that seemingly vanished following an audit. The concealed drum belonging to his uncle, which was connected to a young cyclist. The academic scandal involving his cousin resulted in expulsion, despite the fact that they informed everyone. The leave was taken voluntarily to pursue an exploration of art. The laughter ceased. I maintained a calm demeanor. I retrieved the folder from the diaper bag that I had been carrying. I positioned it on the table. The tabs have been appropriately labeled. I have not opened it. I found it unnecessary. It was common knowledge among all. His father rose to his feet, his face flushed with color. His mother placed her napkin down with force. A few of the guests stood up and departed. A few individuals focused intently on their plates. No one spoke to me again. I collected our child, exchanged a glance with my husband, and we exited together. Maintain a calm demeanor. Kong ko loi tam beat. Only silence prevails. That evening, my husband joined me in the nursery as we gently rocked our son to sleep. He refrained from defending his family on this occasion. We reached a consensus that it was necessary for us to have some distance. Cham dut kak bua toy. Cham dut kak kuok tam vying. We will no longer be extending invitations. We must first determine what peace means for us and our child. The day following the brunch, we organized our belongings and registered at a hotel located on the opposite side of town. Simple yet refined, offering a serene environment that allows for clear thinking, away from any distractions. We informed our neighbors that we would be taking a few days off for relaxation. No inquiries were made. My husband dedicated the majority of the first day alternating between our baby's naps and walking thoughtfully around the room. He remained composed regarding my comments during the brunch. He acknowledged that the facts were accurate. What affected him was the way everything unfolded in front of such a large audience. He repeatedly revisited the scene, analyzing his father's reaction, observing his mother's expression, and noting how the guests became momentarily still. He acknowledged their actions over the years, yet he was taken aback by the manner in which it was revealed. I refrained from engaging in an argument. I brought to his attention each dinner during which I endured their remarks. Each occasion where an individual casually referenced my past as if it were mere family trivia. I had requested him to articulate his thoughts more clearly on several occasions. There have been no alterations. I did not opt for public exposure out of a desire for attention. I selected it due to the unproductive nature of private conversations. His father made 3 calls that afternoon. No acknowledgement, no introspection. There were only voicemails urging him to manage his wife's behavior and rectify the situation before the family's reputation suffered. He attentively listened to one of them at a low volume, shook his head, and informed me that he was finished. He accessed his contacts and proceeded to block his number. Later that night, his mother sent a lengthy message, filled with subtle insinuations and guilt, portraying me as vengeful, unpredictable, and overly emotional. She asserted that I had embarrassed them in their own residence and tainted the family. I responded with a concise message, detailing the years of derogatory remarks, providing screenshots of their online comments, and illustrating how they have turned my past into a source of ridicule, before proceeding to block her number and all social media accounts entirely. The following day, I received a notification. His brother had discreetly unfollowed my company's page. That was expected. However, a few hours later, he shared on his personal profile that some individuals create their own downfalls and then wonder why no one attends the memorial. While it refrained from naming individuals, the timing was unmistakably clear. I have sent the post to a lawyer with whom I collaborated on a prior business transaction. He reviewed the details and verified that nothing I mentioned during the brunch was in violation of any laws. All the information I provided was supported by documentation, publicly available data, court records, and verified timelines. Nonetheless, I aimed to prevent any escalation online, so I composed a message and forwarded it to his brother. It was authoritative and straightforward. I informed him that any additional defamatory posts would result in legal action, and I had already documented all of his previous statements about me. The post was removed by the end of the day. He did not respond. Subsequently, I initiated a spreadsheet. I meticulously recorded every message, every call, every post. I have incorporated timestamps, archived screenshots, and ensured that everything is backed up in 2 cloud drives. I had not intended to pursue legal action, but I aimed to be prepared in case the situation escalated further. Upon returning to the hotel, my husband and I engaged in our first meaningful discussion in several weeks. Focused solely on the task at hand, free from any external interruptions. I informed him that he was at liberty to cultivate any type of relationship he desired with his parents, siblings, or anyone else. However, our child would not be involved, especially if that atmosphere remained detrimental. He acknowledged with a nod. Absolutely no hesitation. He consented to suspend visits, reject calls, and informed me that trust must be cultivated, not assumed. A counseling session was arranged for that same week. It was more than merely addressing the situation. It was essential for us. The therapist exhibited a composed demeanor and keen insight, posing challenging inquiries. It became evident within minutes that his avoidance and silence significantly contributed to the duration of this situation. Not with ill intent, but driven by apprehension. He mentioned that he believed overlooking it would lead to its cessation. On the contrary, it facilitated its growth. I did not experience anger during that session. I have just presented the events that occurred. The name-calling, the online posts, the baby shower toast, the brunch. The therapist took their time to reach conclusions. She assisted us in developing a comprehensive plan. A portion of the discussion encompassed a proposal I made for a structured conversation with any family member who sincerely wished to restore trust, ensuring it was not conducted over dinner or in a casual setting. They must first meet 3 essential conditions: acknowledge the situation, offer a sincere apology without excuses, and establish clear boundaries for the future. We resided at the hotel for a duration of 4 nights. It wasn't a vacation, yet it provided us with a much-needed respite. There are no visitors, no messages, only a moment for reflection. Upon our departure, I sensed that we had ultimately established a boundary, not from hostility, but from a need for clarity. A few days after returning home, I received a message via a mutual acquaintance. The message came from my husband's cousin, an individual who had remained reserved throughout the family turmoil yet consistently exhibited courtesy. He expressed his gratitude for my comments during the brunch, noting that it was essential for someone to address the silence. He inquired whether we could arrange a private meeting, neither at his location nor at mine, but rather in a neutral setting. We convened at a modest park located across town. He arrived with a personal folder in hand. He had no intention of seeking retribution. He mentioned that he simply wished to have a conversation. He conveyed that he was adopted into the family at a young age, and although they met his material needs, he consistently felt like an outsider. He explained the expectations placed upon him to safeguard their secrets, uphold their reputation, and maintain a low profile, as mere inclusion was deemed sufficient. He then shared something that took me by surprise. In the past, the family provided compensation to conceal a workplace harassment incident related to my husband's father. It occurred while the father-in-law was actively managing one of his enterprises. The individual in question was a junior employee. The cousin had reviewed several emails while completing his summer internship at that location. He had also discovered several internal memos labeled as confidential. He presented me with screenshots and segments of documents. The compensation was concealed via a legal agreement that did not proceed to trial. I had no intention of utilizing any of it. I did not replicate it in any way. I have documented the information he provided and incorporated the essential details into my records. I expressed my gratitude for his trust and assured him that if the situation intensified once more, I would ensure his name remained confidential. Before departing, he advised me to exercise caution as the family was not accustomed to facing challenges, particularly from within. During that same week, my husband organized a meeting for me with his sister. He considered that there might be an opportunity to resolve the issues. I consented to it, provided that we convened in a public setting. We selected a serene cafe. His sister arrived as if she were attending a professional brunch meeting. She smiled, placed an order for an exquisite drink, and initiated a conversation with light banter. I addressed the matter directly. She dismissed the remarks she had made over the years as light-hearted amusement. She couldn't recall a single instance where she stood up for me, yet maintained that I had misinterpreted the tone. The discussion yielded no productive outcomes. I completed my transaction for the coffee and exited without further conversation. Upon returning home, I reiterated to my husband that superficial apologies were insufficient. Jokes that belittle others are not trivial, and those who refuse to acknowledge this should not be around our child. He refrained from engaging in a dispute. A few days later, he commenced individual therapy sessions. He sought to comprehend how he allowed everything to slip away for such an extended period. I explained to him that therapy focuses on accountability rather than assigning blame. To create an improved home, we must begin with honesty. Later that week, I went to collect our son from daycare. A woman I was unfamiliar with approached me outside. She presented herself as a long-standing acquaintance of my husband's mother. She bent down, observed the baby, and remarked, raising a little rebel, "I see." She then proceeded to walk away. I took immediate action. I approached the daycare director directly and requested that all family contact information be restricted. I provided them with a list of authorized individuals and requested that they notify me of any unanticipated visits or inquiries. The director comprehended the situation. Changes were made immediately. 2 days later, I received another communication from my husband's cousin. He had listened in on a phone conversation between his mother and one of his uncles. The family was organizing a dinner, not for reconciliation, but to clarify the situation. Their objective was to reshape the narrative surrounding the brunch incident, portraying me as unstable, aggressive, and intent on undermining the family's reputation. An invitation was received through a grouped email. I acknowledged it. I responded directly in the thread indicating that I would not participate in any orchestrated events intended to alter historical narratives. I explicitly stated that I would not engage in any dramatics and that those who choose to remain in denial about their actions are welcome to do so, but not in the presence of me, my husband, or our child. Only one individual responded, an uncle. He responded with a sarcastic message, labeled me as dramatic, and claimed that I was undermining the family bond. I chose not to respond. I saved the email, logged the date, and filed it with the rest. 2 weeks following the unsuccessful dinner event, a letter arrived in the mail for me. It distinguished itself from the typical pile, featuring handwritten text, thick paper, and lacking a return address. Inside was a meticulously folded note from my husband's aunt, penned with precision in blue ink. She began with an apology for her delayed response. She acknowledged having observed the comments, the jokes, and the subtle jabs, yet chose to remain silent to maintain harmony. She acknowledged that the family was completely informed about the manner in which I was being treated. They opted not to address it, finding it more convenient to conform rather than confront the issue. I handed the letter to my husband in silence. He reviewed it once, then reviewed it again. He acknowledged that the letter held significance, yet he was not prepared to mend any relationships without genuine accountability. We did not respond. The letter did not serve as a connection. It was merely a confirmation. In the following days, my husband ceased responding to calls from his parents. He opted for a subtle approach, avoiding grand speeches or dramatic posts. He has begun to disregard invitations, turn down visits, and forego the customary weekend check-ins. It was duly observed. His father sent a lengthy group message alleging that he had forsaken the family, succumbed to external manipulation, and permitted outside forces to undermine their core values. Upon reviewing the message, he directed his gaze towards me and presented his phone. I took the initiative to block his father's number for him. With the distractions silenced, I began to concentrate on a new endeavor. I had been contemplating an idea for some time, one that emerged after that initial barbecue joke regarding plastic forks. A book for children. This is not a personal narrative, but rather a straightforward tale about second chances and the idea that mistakes do not determine one's identity. I began drafting it in the evening once our baby had gone to sleep. One evening, as I was focused on the draft, my husband received a message from an old childhood friend, a person who had been present during our wedding planning and had shared in the family humor at that time. This time, she reached out to express her regret. She acknowledged her participation was due to convenience, but she also mentioned that the family had been actively spreading rumors, not only regarding my past but also about my business. Making claims such as I fabricated documents to secure funding or that I utilized another person's credentials to initiate my first project. The following day, I contacted a public relations consultant, an individual skilled in managing reputation during crises. We convened, and I presented all the details clearly. Hin chup mon hin, gay thang, tin nan. They commenced their tasks promptly. In the following week, a pattern emerged in the social media posts that indicated the IP ranges were aligned with the activities of my husband's brother's former employer. It was awkward, yet sufficient to demonstrate intent. The findings were notarized, copied, and stored in a secure manner. Then arrived the moment that revealed the extent of the gossip's reach. During a standard pediatric checkup, the nurse remarked casually, suggesting that it must be pleasant to have made such a positive change. It was relaxed, presented with a smile, yet there was a certain sharpness, as if she possessed insight beyond the surface. It was as if she had encountered a narrative of my existence that was not meant for her understanding. I maintained a calm demeanor. I provided her with the correct information, clarified the actual timeline, and emphasized that juvenile records are sealed and should not be discussed casually in the hallways. I inquired about her name and recorded it accordingly. I subsequently requested to speak with the clinic manager. Upon returning home that afternoon, my husband expressed his desire to attempt one more thing. Not to mend the family, but to experience a greater sense of connection. He arranged a video call with both sets of grandparents, his and mine, specifically to engage in conversation. His objective was not merely to fix what was damaged, but to assess whether individuals from the older generation could grasp the broader context. The video call took place on a Sunday evening. Both sets of grandparents were present. My husband guided the discussion. He maintained a calm demeanor and presented the facts straightforwardly. He guided them through the timeline with precision. The years of understated embarrassment, the ongoing remarks regarding my history, the quiet that ensued each time a boundary was overstepped. He provided a clear explanation of our decision to step away and outlined the necessary changes required for any potential return. His grandparents did not resist. In fact, their response exceeded all expectations. His grandfather leaned forward and expressed his weariness with the family prioritizing appearance over integrity. He recounted a story that was unfamiliar to all of us, detailing a significant financial misstep he made in his 30s, a poor investment that almost jeopardized the family business. Remarkably, no one found humor in it. It was not utilized as a means to characterize him. He stated that their actions towards me were not merely unjust. It was harsh. I maintained a reserved demeanor for the majority of the call. Allow him to express himself. Allow them to listen. For the first time, I witnessed someone on his side not only listen to us but also take a stand and declare that this was unacceptable. While it may not have resolved all issues, its significance was undeniable. A few days later, my husband informed me that his cousin, who had revealed family secrets, had made the decision to relocate out of state. He had secured a new position and was severing connections with everyone except for us. He expressed his frustration with constantly being cautious and desired a fresh start in an environment where he wouldn't be viewed as a burden. During that period, his sister made contact. She reached out with a proposal to meet at a spa to discuss and realign their situation. My husband did not immediately agree. He requested my perspective. I expressed that it appeared to be an effort at damage control rather than genuine transformation. He consented to the meeting, provided it took place in a public setting, and he accompanied himself with a friend for reassurance. The discussion concluded promptly. No resolution, merely a boundary established where none existed previously. The consequences emerged the following day. His mother sent a lengthy message that included subtle guilt, indirect threats, and emotional persuasion. She discussed the importance of family loyalty, the concept of legacy, and the transformation of my husband. She refrained from discussing the specific events and instead placed the blame on us for causing a rift in the family. My husband took the initiative to permanently block his mother's number without seeking my input. Subsequently, we convened and reached a conclusion. We will not be participating in any family-hosted events in the near future. There will be no holidays, no birthdays, particularly not the upcoming first birthday of our child. We aimed to avoid spending that day dealing with tension or evading subtle jabs. We sought happiness. Our desire was for tranquility. We developed our own strategies. We extended invitations exclusively to those who have consistently supported us. Friends, neighbors, a few cousins, my husband's aunt who authored the letter, and his cousin who is on the verge of relocating. It has been established in our backyard. Elegant decorations, a professionally arranged play area, a bespoke cake designed to resemble a storybook. Only laughter, music, and an environment where our son can explore freely without any harsh sounds disguised as humor. Once the guests departed and the cleanup was completed, I took a seat at my desk and began drafting an idea that had been on my mind for weeks. This is not a letter intended for reconnection or a gesture of goodwill. It serves merely as a formal record, a document to present should anyone attempt to make contact again without confronting the reality of the situation. I have documented the timeline, the history, and the expectations comprehensively. I refrained from specifying individuals. I did not issue any threats. The message was unequivocal. Anyone wishing to be part of our lives must bring honesty and accountability, rather than nostalgia and denial. A week following our child's first birthday, I completed the letter. It lacked emotional depth. It was not composed to solicit. The message was formal and direct, intended for all members of my husband's family. The document presented a comprehensive timeline of events, tracing back to the initial incident, provided specific instances of ongoing disrespect, elaborated on the emotional repercussions for our family, and concluded with 3 stipulations for any future interactions: truth, accountability, and enduring boundaries. In just 2 days, the responses began to arrive. Only frustration, no regrets. Several of his cousins responded with sharp remarks, attributing the division within the family to me and claiming I was exaggerating the situation. I chose not to participate. I have blocked each individual and recorded the messages in my log. The sole call that arrived with precision was from my husband's grandmother. It endured for under 30 seconds. She stated that both of you made the correct decision. She then ended the call. That day, we established our boundaries clearly. It wasn't out of anger, but rather because we had at last witnessed the true essence of peace. Once you reach that point, it becomes unfeasible to act as if the disorder was ever a standard state of affairs. 3 years have elapsed since that correspondence. Our son is now 4 years old, exhibiting a blend of curiosity and kindness, free from the burdens that once affected our family. Last month, we received a formal envelope in the mail featuring a return address that was unfamiliar to me. Enclosed was an invitation to commemorate his grandfather's 75th birthday celebration. A handwritten note was present at the bottom, with no strings attached. Only family. My husband observed it intently for an extended period before placing it on the counter. "What is your perspective on this matter?" he inquired. "I believe we have encountered this situation previously," I responded. During that evening, we engaged in a thorough discussion. Not with hostility or apprehension, but with precision. We analyzed the implications of returning to the house, considering the message it could convey to our son, who is now capable of recognizing faces, perceiving tension, and absorbing unspoken nuances. 2 days later, my husband's cousin, who had relocated, made a phone call. He had been extended the same invitation. He informed us that his parents had divorced last year, resulting in a shift in the family dynamics. His father, one of the uncles who had shown particular cruelty towards me, had undergone a health scare that seemingly altered his viewpoint. The cousin was not offering excuses, but rather providing context. "Will you be attending?" I inquired of him. "Only if both of you are," he stated. "We should proceed only if we collaborate closely. We have made the decision to send a response. Neither an acceptance nor a rejection." My husband composed a concise note indicating that we would contemplate attending if his father was open to a private meeting with us beforehand. We recommended a coffee shop in the downtown area, a suitable meeting point. To our astonishment, his father consented. Upon our arrival, he was already present, appearing somewhat diminished. The 3 years had transformed him in ways that transcended the passage of time. He rose as we neared, extending his hand to me first in a somewhat uncomfortable manner instead of to his son. "Thank you for attending," he stated, his tone devoid of the assurance I recalled. The discussion was quite straightforward. There were neither tears nor elaborate apologies. Instead, he spoke softly about his regrets, reflecting on the late realization of what he had lost. He brought up therapy, a term I never anticipated hearing from him. He reflected on his own father, examining patterns he had never scrutinized until they led to the loss of his son. He stated firmly, "I am not seeking forgiveness. An opportunity to connect with my grandchild before time runs out." My husband and I shared a knowing look. We engaged in a comprehensive discussion about our boundaries prior to our arrival. "We will be present at the birthday celebration," I stated. 2 hours at most. Our son remains with us consistently. A single remark about my history, a quiet jest, and we depart. "Vin veen," he acknowledged with a nod, then smoothly pushed an envelope across the table. Enclosed was a formal letter of apology, distributed to all individuals who had observed the brunch incident 3 years prior. "It has already been mailed." He stated that it will not reverse any actions. However, it is indeed the reality. We participated in the birthday celebration the subsequent weekend. It was not without its flaws. Certain family members exhibited a reserved politeness, while others displayed authentic warmth. His mother embraced my husband for an extended moment before extending a cautious handshake to me. His sister maintained a respectful distance until our son, intrigued by her dangling earrings, decided to approach her. As we were departing, his grandfather, the individual who had advocated for us during that video call with both sets of grandparents years prior, grasped my hand. He remarked softly that, at times, a family must undergo a separation to facilitate proper healing. I didn't inform him that we hadn't returned, not truly. That singular civil afternoon did not diminish the years of cruelty endured. We remained vigilant, maintaining our watchful stance. I acknowledged with a nod. During the journey home, our son peacefully dozed off in his car seat, holding tightly to a small gift from his grandfather, a wooden puzzle box featuring a concealed compartment. "Are we making the appropriate decision?" my husband inquired, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. I glanced at our son peacefully sleeping, then turned to the man beside me who had finally mastered the art of standing resolutely. I provided an honest response, as I was uncertain. "However, I am confident that we are proceeding correctly, according to our conditions, within our limits, and that holds significance." We did not completely reintegrate into the family dynamic following that day. We opted for a meticulous and restrained approach to our presence. Lunch meetings held in public venues. Brief engagements with definitive conclusions. Holiday cards featuring polished family portraits without any personal updates. It was not about reconciliation or forgiveness. Rather, it was about coexistence under specific conditions. Our organization has experienced ongoing growth. This time, I released my children's book using my real name. The folder containing family secrets remained securely locked, not forgotten, yet no longer deemed essential to display. We constructed our lives with individuals who recognized our true selves and embraced us unconditionally, friends who evolved into family, neighbors who arrived with genuine intentions, and colleagues who honored our limits. We achieved peace without severing connections. We just needed to stop crossing the ones that led nowhere good.